the Independent Ethics Review Board Task Force this Wednesday, November 13th, 2024 at 6 p.m. The first item up is public comment. Is there anyone signed up for public comment?
No.
Great. The next item are the consideration of and action on the minutes of the October 23rd, 2024 meeting. Are there any changes or modifications needed for those minutes?
No.
Right, may I have a motion to approve the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes approved. All right. The next item is our workshop. So review of and discussion on the proposed revisions to the Code of Ethical Conduct. And we have hopefully made it a long way. And biggest lift today, I believe, will be to look at the final revisions that were made last meeting, make any final modifications or approve those as they stand. The first slide, so I can find it, page 15 of 26. I do not know if this was added last meeting, but I saw that it did not show. Oh no, it does have approved. I take it back. Next page. Sorry, I thought I found one that we had missed. Okay, so the first page I have would be page 21 of 26. Does anybody else have something sooner than that? That's where we start going to the procedures, which was the biggest discussion item. I do think we got up to speed as we do in most meetings. So the first item that was revised at our last meeting is we added the fifth item that says any evidence that the information provided in the complaint is incomplete or unsubstantiated. So those are things that we would consider to be dismissed as frivolous if their information is not wholly what is a possible implication of the complaint itself. Not necessarily fully investigated, but there's no substantiating information that was provided. Does anyone have any changes to that language? Okay. So if we turn the page to 22, we have a revision. Apologies. I have that revision under public hearing, but it looks like it says revision approved. So J was approved at last meeting. The one above it that's it says revised at 10:23. It looks like we need an approval on that one as well. So if we look at the Independent Ethics Review Board, and it was stricken through the conduct hearings and other proceedings. It's the revision to the executive language. So instead of saying that we can conduct the hearings on the proceedings in a closed session, that we're allowed to go in an executive session based on the current requirement. So it didn't provide additional clarity. It removed the part where it sounded like we could conduct hearings in a closed session. Bless you. Do we have any changes or concerns on that one? Okay. The next actual modification is that the board will conduct a public hearing versus hold. That feels pretty minor. Any concerns?
No.
All right, so we'll approve that one. Moving right along. Page 23. So this is where we have the new retaliation section 2-102, and it states that retaliation is prohibited. An official may not retaliate against an individual for reporting or participating in an investigation of potential violation of this code of ethical conduct. It's clean, it's short. It mirrors some of the language that we looked at last time, but the ones that were more concise. What are your thoughts on this new verbiage?
I like that it's clear and concise.
I like that it's in there. I like that it's not extensive and it doesn't elaborate. It's, it's just prohibited.
should we be concerned about, should we be concerned about the penalties? I mean, what happens if that does happen? I mean, is that within our purview, or is that outside of what we should be concerned about?
The penalty, should somebody file a complaint about retaliation, we investigate it. And then say we substantiated that investigation. What would be the outcome, or what would be the penalties? I would assume that the penalties would be similar to what's already in there. So like sanction, letter of admonition, et al.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. But that answers your question? Okay. Any other questions or comments around this section?
No,
Okay, we'll mark that one approved. Okay, and so the section 2-103 or 104, reconsideration. So this comes out of the discussion where whether or not we should have, if new evidence comes forth and that whatever our finding was, say we we substantiated the complaint, but more information came to light so that we had the opportunity to reconsider it, similar to an appeal, but not utilizing that type of language. I will give you a minute to read the section. I'm not going to subject you to me reading this entire paragraph out loud. One thing to note is the 14 days. Within the notice of the sanction, so it's not giving an unlimited amount of time. It's not 6 months or a year. It's, listen, once the decision's made, and if there have been imposed sanctions, they have 14 business days to file for consideration. And then it does point back in the blue language that we follow the same procedure. So then it would come to us, we would decide whether or not we want to hear the consideration. We could dismiss it as frivolous under the same criteria that we've already outlined. So it's a consistent procedure. What are your thoughts around this new language?
My side.
Raquel, still read. And just to clarify, the whole chunk was added on 10-2. The blue is the actual refinement that we proposed last meeting.
Just to make reference back.
So, because that was the discussion was, what do we do? So if somebody brings forth a reconsideration, is there a different process? And we said we would follow the same process, so it points back, so there's no question about what next steps would be.
Yes. That looks good.
what's our magic with the 14 business days? I'm just curious.
That was taken from the sample language that y'all liked. If you'd like it longer, we can certainly make it longer or shorter.
No, I did. To me, something 14 days would be 2 weeks, but it says 14 business days, which is 2.8 or something. So I'm just curious. I mean, it's not, I don't have anything ethically concerned.
I think if we did like 30 business days, then it starts getting a little long. And so I feel like 14 keeps it a little bit closer inside. And if I recall, I believe the rest of the document, we point to business days. So it was kind of like a 2-week decision, but wanting to use the same consistent business day language that's throughout.
Business days is also helpful to staff because we have to make notice under the Open Meetings Act. And so you have the 72 hours there, but also if a storm comes through, those are not necessarily business days for us. And so that the time is told if we're working on a hurricane or a freeze, and that we're not able to convene you all, because you are all taking care of your homes as well, or if you hit the holidays. So
just a little more flexibility. But best case scenario, we can move things quicker.
yes,
It's 14.
That gives them 14 days to get it to us. I don't want them to try to turn something in if we're closed.
Right.
Are we comfortable with that, or do we wanna consider some sort of other time frame?
I think 14 days works. Huh?
It's reasonable.
In 2-105. We removed unfounded. To the language, because if it's dismissed. We determined that it would, if it's unfounded, we would dismiss it. It felt duplicative. That was the bulk of the refinement. So this was all new language that we discussed last meeting, and just wanted to take that part out just because of the feeling of a perceived redundancy. Any objections or comments?
Objection.
That is the last section of comments that I have with revisions. But keep me honest on Billy, if
No, thank you. Hit all of them.
Just to back up in 2-104, just to me grammatically in the first sentence, second line, the sanctions may petition to. I would add the independent ethics review board, and it's just
I haven't found where you're at, I'm sorry.
in reconsideration
Oh, okay,
on the second line, right in the middle. Just adding THE after between two and independent.
yes, and we used it similarly.
Yeah,
Like
in the next sentence, it's correct,
Yeah.
in my opinion, correct. It's not substantive, but it just reads better.
No, thank you. Please, correct our grammar, please.
So we'll get that article added. Any others that you've identified? Well, when you look at something over and over again, it doesn't become as apparent.
I'd much rather catch it here than when we're standing in front of city council.
Fair. Meredith Anjali, what are our next steps? So we have made all of our revisions to all of the sections. We have reviewed the comments and those revisions and approved. All comments have been completed from our perspective.
Okay, well, if you're happy with this red line as presented tonight, we will go back and mark the ones that you've approved, add the that should help. Do another proofread, hopefully catch any other grammatical errors we made, but if you happen to see some, please point them out.
Can we get a version that's clean after the approvals? Because that, if there's any other grammatical issues, it might be easier to spot. If not, it's okay.
I can't send it to a quorum of you and have you respond back to me
Okay.
because that's a meeting.
Okay.
I could send you all a clean copy for your review and only reply back to me if you notice an error or received, but there's not going to be any discussion. Do not reply all, do not add somebody to another discussion. This is just I'm providing you information that there's no discussion. I can do that outside of a published meeting,
Okay.
but there cannot be, aside from pointing out grammatical, I can't make any additional changes without y'all sitting
Yes.
here in this room. So the next steps would be for us to take the red line. We're going to leave it as a red line for taking it to council. We'll delete out the provisions like the date it was approved.
Sure.
But when we take it to them, it'll take the comments out, but it'll still have the track changes. So that city council will see exactly what suggestions you all are making. So I will send you a clean red line with the V in there and some other tweaks, as well as one that's got it all accepted so that you could read a nice clean copy. And then after that, the goal would be to get on a city council agenda. And I would desperately invite you all to join me because these are your recommendations and not mine or Anjali's. And so we would like you all to at least be sitting there if there's questions. Otherwise, we'd like you to participate in, why you made the suggestions, why you're making these recommended revisions. The goal for that would probably be January. It would be a workshop, so it'll be towards the end of the agenda. Most likely it'll be the third Tuesday of January. I don't think we can make the first one after the holiday. We're playing catch up. And so that would give them time to say yay or nay before the election starts, because I do want to make sure that this doesn't become part of the election cycle, but if anything goes crazy during the election cycle, you have your revisions in place, should you need them. In the unlikely event that you may need them. So that would be the next steps. Other than that, we would go back to our quarterly meeting schedule and we will be discussing newspaper articles. And Anjali will have her Wednesday nights back unless she just wants to join in, and she's more than welcome to do so.
It's a lot of fun.
So that would be the next steps.
I don't have any other items of business, and that concludes our agenda. So with that, and to ideally set a record, could I get a motion to adjourn?
Here, motion. Continue.
All in favor?
Hi.
Meeting adjourned.
One other thing I should add. No.
It's too late.
It's the appointment season, so some of you will be sworn in again. But you do have to take your ethics training annually, so just be prepared. You will not only have you revised it and lived it, you will get to see whatever the game of the year is. So just thought I'd tell you that.
It would only be appropriate.
I appreciate all of y'all's help.